Welcome, welcome back to Crafting Your Meaningful Life. I'm Mary Crafts, and I get to be your host today because what are we going to do today? We're going to add one more piece on crafting this life. Now, most of you who listen know my story and my weight loss, my fitness, my health journey. And do I have a guest for you today? You're going to love her. This is Marla Mervis-Hartmann, and welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here, Mary. I'm so happy to be here, and I've been loving your podcasts. You give such great insight. It just gets into your life. So I'm so honored to be one of your guests. So thank you for having me.
Well, Marla, the thing that I think people like most about my podcast, regardless of what level my guests are on, I am always on the level of let's get vulnerable, let's get real,
Oh,
let's
yeah.
stand naked here. And that is what people love. They love to be able to relate to that they know we can relate.
Yeah.
And I know you can relate to the things I talk about because you have been on this journey of fitness, health, and wellness. In fact, you recently wrote a book and had it published. So let's start with tell us about your book.
Yes. So my book is called Befriend Yourself, Finding Freedom with Food and Peace with Your Body.
Yeah.
And it's my journey of healing from disordered eating, eating disorder, negative body image, all the things that this world makes normal,
Yeah.
and how I have helped a lot of my clients. So it's a really inside out experience of healing. And I recently had someone message me and said, when I read your book, it feels like, although I'm reading it, it feels like my body is getting the message.
Ah,
And that's
yeah.
exactly the point. I want it's good to have the right mindset always. And it's good to have our mind on board, but for our bodies, for our nervous
Mhm.
system, for us to relate to the idea of freedom with food and our body and
Right.
loving our body and feeling safe and feeling good about ourselves, regardless of what we look like and how much we ate and all the things. So, yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
excited for our conversation.
Well, and tuning into my body has helped me just about more than anything. Some people get messages from their soul or spirit or from other, however, whatever you believe, but they receive messages,
Mhm.
but they receive them maybe from others. Maybe something comes to them mentally. Maybe they have some strong emotion about something. My messages, I know, come to me from my body. I'm very in tune. My body, that's that book, The Body Keeps the Score.
Yes.
I tell you what, uh, my body is my biggest key to where I'm at.
It
Like
sounds
if
like your body is your best friend and
it
you've
it's
become friends to your
totally
body.
when
Yeah.
I'm feeling exhausted and I feel like oh, I just needed to take a nap. If that thought comes to me, I
Mhm.
now know what that means. That now means you've been overloading your brain with so much stuff that you just need to have that aha moment where you just aha.
Yeah.
My body tells me that. If I get an upset stomach, it means I've been procrastinating.
Hmm.
I have been procrastinating something I know I need to do, but because I really don't want to do it, I just kind of wait on it and keep pushing it out there. And pretty soon my stomach will go like, you feel a little sick. To know that about my body, that my body is sending me those things, like, what about a pain in the neck? What do you think that tells me?
Right. Exactly.
So I love being in tune with our body, and that your friend said to you, or your person who'd read the book, that their body was listening. Marla, I absolutely know that that's a possibility, that our body can hear and understand things that maybe our conscious mind cannot.
Yes, and so the issue with that is people are wondering, probably you're listening to this and you're like, well, how do I do that?
Yeah,
And also, also there's like, I don't really want to listen to my body. There's that aspect, right? Because our body often will tell us to slow down. Our body will tell us what we need, we really need, it's attuned, right? So when you're saying it's bringing in all of the information, our emotions are stored here. God gives us messages, and sometimes it lands in our body, which is what you said very beautifully. So for me, I was really afraid to listen to my body because my body was
Mm.
going to say, you need to eat more food, right? I was on like a very like I no, I'm supposed to eat at this time. No, we're not hungry. We're supposed to eat here, here, and here, right? And it's like my body is telling me no, like eat food. Or or it's time to stop eating food. And so I didn't want to hear that. I wanted to
Yeah.
control. People want to control their bodies because let's face it, sometimes it feels like the only thing that we can control is our body. We can't control outside influences. We can't control, right? So a lot of people at very young ages, where a lot of the disordered eating or eating disorders often comes from some wound or some trauma that it's
Yeah.
like in their family they can only control their body. But this is the thing, our body always wins, right? Our body
Yeah.
wins. If we are holding, let's say, we're, if we think we can starve for too long, often what ends up happening is a binge is there, right? Someone binges. And often that happens because the body is bloody hungry and it's going to find a way to get that food, right? So every time I've gone into restriction and I think I'm on that restriction, I'm on that diet, I'm doing that thing, I think I got it, right? And then all of a sudden I start craving all these foods, I start wanting all these things, and my body starts to get a little bit sick and I'm not able to exercise as much. It's because my body is saying, oh no, this is scary. She's
Ah,
restricting so much. We're going to call in all the ammunition. We're going to lower her immune system. We're going to like give her all the cravings. And then
yeah.
what happens is, so then you eat all the food, right? And then what happens for people, I'll share my experience, is then I would have a binge or I'd overeat. And then I would be so ashamed. And I would say, I'm out of control. I can't control my food. There's something wrong with me. What is wrong with me? But what if we go back in time, it was I wasn't listening to my body to begin with. So what was wrong with me wasn't wrong with me. It was my whole approach to food, to my body, wasn't really truly in alignment and authentic to what my body needed, which was more nourishment or more
Yeah.
rest or more care.
So, this idea of befriending your body,
Yes.
befriending yourself, loving yourself is obviously one of the biggest things that we ever look at, deal with, walk through in our lives. And I love this idea that we can actually fall in love with ourselves again as opposed to shaming. When you said that word, shame, it just brought up a lot of things in me. Most of them are old, and I can look at them and say, that's an old thing. I'm
Mhm.
glad that I've really looked at that.
Mhm.
But I think that we get addicted to shame, just
Oh,
like we're addicted to, pornography or eating or anything else. We're addicted to those things that bring us shame. How does that fit into your thought process,
I
Marla?
think you are so hitting the mark there. And we so often, you know, if we look at about, we're often addicted to different emotions, right? We can be addicted to sadness. We can be addicted to anger, right? People are so quick to anger. And then this idea of shame, right? So we get into the shame spiral. And then what happens in that shame spiral, we try to make decisions, right? We try to go, it's like, oh my gosh, I have to get myself out of this. I have to get myself out of this. This is not okay. I can't believe I did this, or something wrong with me. This is disgusting. I can't believe I'm here again. All those things. That is the worst time to make a decision.
Yeah.
When we're in the shame, it's the worst time. When we're in shame, the step to take is the step is coming back to, oh, okay, I'm okay. That's the step. That's the first step. So how do we do that? So what I always share with people and is that we really need to find compassion. So when people come to me, and a lot of people come to me because they're binge eating or they're emotional eating, and they're like, I need to stop. And they say, I need to stop the binging. I'm like, no, you need to stop the shaming of
Yeah.
the binging. Because if you stop the shaming of the binging will change. The relationship to it is going to go away. So that is the moment. So if we think about it from this concept of befriending yourself, if your friend came over and said, I have something really uncomfortable to tell you, something really shameful, and they said it to you, what would you do? You'd hold space. You'd
Yeah.
be like, oh, girl, oh, I'm with
Come
you. Like,
here, come here, come
feel
here. Let
you.
me hold on to you.
Yeah, let
Yeah.
me hold you. I feel you. Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
That is so intense. Oh, I'm so sorry that you're here. I've been here before. You're okay. So really the answer, and it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. And that's why I think having a guide, having someone like me or you, Mary, or someone that can help move through that shame and move it and have a different insight on it, because it does have so much addiction and angst and upset. And then it starts, the more the shame, then it starts bringing in other stories, right? It's like a magnet for negativity, and it doesn't really serve at
Right.
all. And it's
Yeah.
normal to have shame, right?
Yeah.
It's a normal emotion. And we can respond to it like a friend rather than like an enemy.
I love that. When I think about being addicted to shame, I think that what is shame? What's the reward of shame? That's how I started with, what is the reward of wanting to feel shame? Because
Mhm.
it sounds like the very worst possible scenario that you could want for yourself. So I really had to understand, what is it that shame gives me? Shame gives me the validation for what I feel about myself. And if I'm not loving myself, and if I'm listening to the voices that you listen to as a child, what's wrong with you? Why can't you? Your sister doesn't. You could do that better. Just all the things like, go change your outfit. It looks awful. Whatever it is that I have ingrained in me, that I'm not enough, and that I need to be shamed to keep myself in line. It's self-fulfilling. If I can finally say, you know what, I know how to behave myself without being shamed. I can make good choices on my own. My cerebral frontal cortex is now developed. I don't have to use this back thing that's just about fight or flight, that believes every single thing that comes into my life. I get to use my brain and think, wait a minute, I can choose good eating without being shamed. I can choose to look at my life without through the lens of shame.
Yes.
It's so freeing, Marla.
It is so freeing. And it often is that self-fulfilling prophecy, because if you think about it, say the parent, whatever back in time said these things, it's like you're reparenting yourself. So in that moment of having shame, you get to come in and say, no, actually, you're okay. Even though you did that behavior, you're still okay and I still love you. We may not like it, but I still respect and love you. And that's the thing when it comes to, you know, the journey of loving ourselves. We often think that we're supposed to like ourselves at all moments. And sometimes we may not like what we see in the mirror. We might not like the actions that we take all the time, but we still want to show up with love and respect. So I think about, long-term relationships. I think about my husband. There are times where I'm just like, oh my gosh, that choice that you just made, like, I'm not liking that at all. Like, I'm not fully enamored with this
Yeah.
situation here, right? But I love him. I love him.
Yeah.
I adore him. And so even though I may not like what he does, I love him and I show up with respect. It's the same thing we can do with our bodies. Like, I don't like what I look like today. I don't like my weight. I don't like what's present, but I'm still not going to belittle myself and call myself names and be disgusted by myself and put myself on a rigid diet and do all these things, right? We have to differentiate between liking and loving. And I think we can get a better idea on that when we're thinking about friendship, right? Because friendship is something that we can kind of wrap our head around. Like when it's just like, oh, I gotta love myself. It's
Yeah.
like this, like, it's not tangible. It's like, what does that mean? But when we think about friendship, right? Like, if you and I
Yes.
were friends, which I think we could be great friends, Mary, like we would show
Absolutely.
up and we could, we would listen to each other. We would prioritize our friendship. We would prioritize. It's the same thing with our bodies and our being. I prioritize myself. I listen to myself. I
I,
care for myself.
that word, how powerful is just that word? I'm going to prioritize. We think about that in our life all the time. Okay, you get what you focus on. You prioritize. You talk about your family being so important to you, yet you never see them. Blah blah blah. We prioritize what's important to us. I don't think I've ever used that word about self, even though I have done the process. That word is so powerful. I want to prioritize me, my friend, my best friend,
Yeah.
who's with me more than anybody else, with me every day and night. I want to prioritize you. I want to make sure you're getting all the feels, all the needs, all the lifts, all the loves, because you're my best friend.
Yeah.
Prioritize. I love
Yeah.
that.
I think prioritize is often a word you hear with health, like just physical health
Yeah.
or business. But when we think about prioritizing our mental health, our emotional health, um, our care for ourselves, I think it changes that idea of self-care because self-care really is about prioritizing and even tuning into those moments where we do prioritize ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, just thinking about people like I can remember doing like something around self-care, a class or something or a series, and I had a friend message me and she's like, well, I just don't have time to prioritize myself. I don't have a husband or something and I don't prioritize, and I was like, it's an interesting thing. And I think about her. She drops her kid off at my house so they can play together, so she can go and do something for herself. And I'm like, no, actually, you are right. So we need to notice the small things that we're doing for ourselves, because when we think about prioritizing ourselves, it can almost feel like, oh my gosh, I have to do this whole other thing. It's a whole other thing. No, it's like,
Yeah. And we give
oh,
ourselves more weapons to shame ourselves with. Oh, you didn't do your meditation today. Dang.
totally. Right. So it's those moments where it's like, okay, like I have a little pillow behind me. That is prioritizing my body as
I
I'm
have one
sitting there.
behind me too.
Oh, yeah, that is like I prioritize my alignment. And that is a self, that is me loving myself. So we want to kind of start looking at like, where am I doing this? To get us into that energy of like, yeah, I do know how to care for myself. I do know how to prioritize myself. And I want to do that more.
Yeah.
So not from the deficit, from the place of appreciation.
So I know that you're a life coach, I don't know if life coach, but what particularly do you specialize in your coaching?
Yes. So I work with the people with body image and food issues.
Okay.
So a lot of people come to me for that. A lot of people come to me for a lot of other issues as well. Self-worth, lack of confidence. My approach is very dealing with inner wounding and also spiritual. So I'm a very
Ah,
Reiki master and really coming from a lot of
of course
spiritual
you are.
ideals and principles and really from this higher vibration of love is what I call it, right? So we're
Okay.
really
Yeah.
looking at, going in and healing these deeper places so that we can be the person we want to be the authentic person that we're longing to be. And that's what I feel is like people come to me because they're like, I know that I can be more than this,
Yeah.
that the food is in the way or the body stuff or whatever, or the relationship or whatever's in the way. And they're like, but please just help me because I know that there's the me in there that can be expressed.
That's the very look on your face right now. Is that look of longing. I see
Mhm.
that in people's faces,
Yeah.
particularly women, that they have that look on. They're like, I just want, and they want so much, and it's just this longing. And thank heavens there are tools out there that can help move them past that. Coaching being one of them, your book being one of them, listening to podcasts being one of them. But there are tools. I want to ask you, when you start your coaching with someone. So this is kind of a debate I've had inside myself. So I'm going to ask the expert. So here we go. I obviously, at some point in my life, became aware that the shame and the fear and the feelings of not being enough or never measuring up isn't something I conjured up by myself in my own lifetime. That I had help coming to that position, which typically includes your mom, your dad, your siblings, early friends, relatives, whatever's influencing you in those first 7 years of your life. Okay. You're coming to this. And so in your coaching, do you feel it's beneficial? Do you go back and look at those things, or do you start from where you are now?
So great question. I love this so much. So, what I love to do is I like to start with what is your vision? Because some people are so in it, they don't even know what the vision is of what they want. So, we really start by, because people are like, oh, I'm so trapped in the pain that we look at what is even the vision we're wanting. And they're like, that sometimes is hard. But what my specialty is, Mary, is finding exactly what you're talking about, finding that wound that's connected to the behavior. So I do a lot of inner child work with people, and and I know that's a term that's used, but I have a very specific technique that I do because what I find, is that we're all running around as little kids and this we're all running
Yep.
around as our inner child being activated and triggered, right? So when we actually go in and learn how to and find that wound and reparent ourselves and love that place, that the integration of that. So we can do a lot of stuff on top, which is great, right? Meaning like behavior changes and mindset. But a lots of times that's just hitting the adult. If the wound is still there, and I'll give an example in a second, if the wound is still there, we're not getting to it. We're not really getting to that place. No, I'm not talking about going in and poking around at trauma, right? Sometimes it's not about poking around at the story. It's about finding the pain point and loving it, right? And sometimes that is about going in and finding that. But sometimes a lot of people will come to me like, I've already done this. I've already talked about this in therapy. But there's something about the connection to the wound and the food that I can connect to, or the wounding and the relationship to the body. And when we connect those, and understand that the wounding can trigger a lot of the food stuff,
Yeah.
it changes everything. So the example I wanted to make around the adult being, so I'm sure we've all had those moments where it's like we see our parents for the first time, where we see them and we're like, oh, I get it. Oh, now I see my dad. I totally understand why he did that. So, for
Yeah.
example, my dad, I grew up with all sisters, my mom, and I remember being like, oh my gosh, this poor man. He was around so much estrogen and he just wasn't available the way that I needed,
Ah,
my little girl
sure,
needed.
sure.
So there was that moment of realization that was like, oh, I see my dad. I love my dad. And I see him as the adult. I see him as a man, right? So there was a relief in that on that adult level, but there still wasn't, my little girl inside still was wanting her dad. So to go back and love on that part and acknowledge that and not be like, he's okay. It's okay. You get it now. He's okay. No, no, no. These inner characters, they need love and care. And so I find it to be actually one of the most powerful technologies that I've witnessed in my own life and how I've helped my clients move through a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And so, but it has to be balanced with mindset and positivity and all the other tools along with it.
It is that fine balance, Marla,
It really is.
between staying stuck and being a victim of your past and realizing that you're in control of who you are and taking this and just moving forward. You can't go back and fix that. Well, actually, maybe you can. And you can move. I mean, there's a fine balance. I have witnessed women who are just still stuck in the blame game and still stuck in like, oh, pity me. I won't ever overcome this because of this. And then I've experienced women on the other side who are like, that was there and then. I'm not going to go back. I can make my choices from here.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, neither approach is a holistic approach. You know, for my own self, I remember that moment when I went back and looked at my mom and my sister, my older sister, who I saw as the perfect one in our family, you know, and I was not. And when I began to see them and their wound,
Mm-hmm.
that their wound actually was the same as mine.
Mm-hmm.
They manifested it vastly different.
Totally. Yeah.
My sister manifested hers in absolute perfection.
Yeah.
She was perfect at everything she had to be because she knew she wasn't enough. My mom manifested hers in making sure her two daughters were perfect because what? She was given the wound of not being enough.
Yeah.
And my sister came first. She took the perfect role. I was second, so I took the unperfect role. Okay. But when I began to see these three planets orbiting together and how much we were alike instead of different, and the compassion that I felt for them, and the compassion I was able to feel for me and my role, I was finally
Mary,
able to move on.
and you know what I feel by you saying that? So I think we've all had those moments like, well, they've had that, they had that, they had this, and I understand, right? But what, like, I just want to say to the listeners, did you hear how Mary was like feeling that? Like I felt that you felt that. There was a resonance that your wounding met theirs, and there's all so much love. Like that is healing. That heals. There's almost like here you are in this lineage with these women, and you both are connected, and you're both playing out the same thing. There's just so much love there. Like I just feel so much. Like what a
Yeah.
healing moment
Yeah.
to have that awareness, not just the awareness, but the love and the compassion and the care for yourself within that. And
Yeah.
that's so powerful
And
because
then
what
from them, you can go on. And then I began then to understand my grandmother, the generations back, that was her wound that she gave to my mom. And surprise, surprise, guess what wound I gave to my only daughter? Same. But now that I'm this age and she's in her 30s, we're able to look at that together.
yeah,
She doesn't have to wait till she's in her 50s. And as I have healed, I'm helping her heal. This generational process is profound and necessary.
it is. It really is generational healing and looking at that. and also noticing. So if we look out in the world and we look at this feeling of women not feeling enough, what we're really being told is, I know what's going to help you. If you just get your body to that perfect weight,
Oh,
you're going to be enough. And if you just figure out that diet, then you're going to be enough. Or if you get whatever, then you're enough. Whatever that thing is out in
thing
front of
is
us.
that carrot.
Right? But in this conversation about body and food, we'll talk about diet culture. And we buy it. We are smart.
Yeah.
We are smart people. And for some reason, we think that, and I know we've talked before we came on just about dieting, right? This yo-yo dieting.
Yeah.
And, how that changes when we are with our bodies from a place of love and we reclaim our bodies and we listen to our bodies and not listen to what diet culture is telling us about our bodies.
Yeah.
And being sovereign in our own body is like, whoa, such a game changer.
In my company that I founded, in the end, one of the major roles I played was I was over marketing. And I began to realize at that point that every piece of marketing that was ever done in this universe was done from the point of shame. I know it's hard to say that, but you're not enough. But if you use my product, or if you act this way, or subscribe to this, or listen to this person, or eat this food, guess what? You're going to finally get to be enough. And when we see marketing for what it is, it's okay that people market, but then we can look at it differently. Like, you know what? I'm pretty much okay without that $200,000 car. I'm pretty much okay without it. Now, if I choose to buy it, it's from a point of, it is so fun to drive, I can't even tell you, okay? But it's not from, I am finally enough because I own it. And everyone will see it.
Yeah. And it's a little tricky because we're in diet culture and because we're in the culture that gives us, we've all had those moments, I think, where we've lost weight and people are like, oh my gosh, what'd you do? And they give you all these accolades. And sometimes the sicker I was the sicker I was mentally and the thinner I was, then I would get all this feedback about my body. And it was like, that's the worst thing to say to someone because you don't really know what's going on. So we really need to refrain ourselves from talking about people's bodies altogether because we don't know where they are on the journey. We don't know. It's like their body is a journey.
Bingo. I love that. So refrain from seeing people as their bodies and see them more as themselves. So if I saw someone for a long time that I haven't seen for a long time, and they obviously have, in the last 6 months, been using Ozempic, and suddenly they're down 40 pounds, you know what I mean? So it's true. The first piece of my reaction is to say, oh, you look great. What have you been doing? But,
That's diet culture.
That's diet culture. So
it's so ingrained in us. It is so ingrained, and it is just and it's our sight, right? That's the first thing. The first thing we do is we see someone, so we usually comment on what people. But it's like we have to retrain ourselves. We have to unlearn and realize all the things that we're doing that are making this epidemic of diet culture and making us feel that we are our bodies, and our bodies have to be smaller and smaller and smaller, right? In order to be enough.
Yeah.
So it's really about stopping that.
Yeah. So I have a thing I do. I hug. I'm a hugger. I hug people every time I see them. Doesn't matter if I have seen them yesterday or if I haven't seen them for 10 years. I hug people. And they know Mary is a full frontal hugger.
Good.
But the reason I do that is because when I pull them in, I allow just 1 second of time to feel their heart.
Yes.
And if their heart feels at peace and at love, then I'm able to say, you're feeling so peaceful. You're looking wonderful. Tell me about your journey. And if they're not feeling that, if I still feel like this, like it's jerky energy inside rather than, then I don't go right to the, you look great or anything. I really try and just be present with them and not talk about their physical stature. Is that what
Yeah.
you're talking about?
Yeah, I would say not even talking about their physical stature at all. Literally
Yeah.
hugging them and saying, "Oh, you feel so good.
So good.
Oh, you feel
Yeah.
so good." Or, "Oh, I'm so glad to see you." Right?
Yeah. I do this thing where I hold the back of their head
Mm.
close to my so I can whisper in their ear. I was looking at the spirit today, but and then I let them go. And their look in their eyes is always like, oh, thank you. That's that big.
Yeah. That's lovely. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is just that moment of presence. Like that is powerful,
Yeah.
right? And so what happens is for people when they're getting responded about their body, say they lose weight, then there's that fear of when they gain it back. Now people are going to notice. And so, and then you get the attention when you've lost the weight, but if you've gained it and no one says anything, and so it perpetuates the fear that I need to be thinner in order to get acknowledgement. And that
Yeah.
acknowledgement is usually connected to I'm not enough, or there's something wrong with me, or I need to be better, or whatever that is. So it's a big journey that we're all on in
Yeah.
these bodies, right?
It is a big journey. And Marla, I could talk to you for the next hour because I have more questions. I
I
wanted to
know.
ask you like, so why am I critical of someone who I see them in a photo and I think they should be, not turned sideways. They should be because they would look better. Or yeah, I'm looking at their body as opposed to their soul. And I'm still doing that. I don't want to do that. I want to stop that. I want to just look at their eyes and just say, I sense you're carrying something today. Or like, I see the joy in your eyes or anything like that.
So
I want to let go.
yeah, shall we leave? Shall we end on a little a little practice around this? Because oh
Okay.
my gosh,
I'm
yeah,
ready.
let's.
Okay.
I'm gonna teach you all a practice. So I
Great.
think that is so normal, right? And that often comes from that judgmental, critical mindset that we have about ourselves,
Yep.
then put it out into the world.
Yep.
So we're constantly, and I was doing this so intensely. I couldn't go out without judging people and I can't believe is she eating? What is she eating? I bet she didn't eat this morning. And like, what? I can't believe she has that outfit on. I would never wear that outfit. And I'm thinner than her or whatever. And it's constant. And it's literally how the mind gets programmed. And then it just keeps going. It keeps filtering life from this filter of, I'm not enough, so I need to be critical of everyone else to see if I'm safe with myself. So that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
So here's what I did
But
to
it's a
change.
habitual thing.
Yeah, you have to stop it.
Yeah. I want to stop that because I
So,
realize it's not helping me. It's not helping them.
no. And so the first thing is you're aware of it. So that's
Yeah.
step one, right? So you're aware of it. So when you notice it, you're like, oh, I'm doing that thing again.
And that thing.
Okay. I'm doing that thing and not go to shame. It is coming. It's like, oh, I'm doing that thing again. Oh,
Yeah.
that's not, oh, that doesn't feel good, right? Because it doesn't feel good to you either.
No.
So here's something you can do. So you can take all that energy that is going outward and being critical. And this is what I did.
Okay.
I would start looking around with like I would do it as a practice. I would go to the grocery store and I would look at people's bodies and be like, "Oh, I love that shirt. Oh my gosh, look at her eyes. Like, wow, look at her midriff and her belly hanging out over and she's working it and she is and I couldn't do that. And
Yeah.
wow, good for her. And who am I to say?" And like I would acknowledge all bodies. Big bodies, small bodies, petite, older, younger. The because it started to change this ideal body that we all have been force fed.
Yeah.
We've been force fed a certain body. And it's like, how about we expand the idea of what a good body is? A, it's
Yeah.
none of our business, but as is in this brainwashing of like brainwashing ourselves, like I see beauty everywhere and every body is beautiful. And what happens with that, Mary, at least this is what happened for me, is that because I saw beauty around me everywhere, when I looked in the mirror, I was like, oh, I'm okay. This body is okay too. If those bodies are okay, this body is okay.
Yes. I love that. Barbie first was created and marketed when I was 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I got my first Barbie that Christmas at 7 in the 50s. I took her clothes off first thing when I was alone, just to look at her body.
Yeah.
And that body was never, ever going to be me, no matter what I weighed.
Yeah.
And the difference now is that I can take my clothes off and look at my body and hold my body and say, damn, you did okay. You know what? Do you see those stretch marks? Each one of those have a story. You see the wrinkles in that skin? That's a big story. You see those knees that aren't pretty anymore? They signify my age and how much wisdom I have. I love the story my body has to tell now. Marla, you are a gift to everyone, and particularly my listeners, and more particularly to me. I'm going to buy your book. I want to read it. I want to learn how to be a friend to my best friend. I love this. Marla, in the future, if something happens and you're doing something new and exciting, would you come back on and share more wisdom with us?
Oh, let's do it. We can get into so many other things.
Oh my gosh, this is just like here's the little iceberg, and
know.
I want to break into the Titanic. Let's go.
Let's do it.
Let's do this. All right, my friends, my listeners, my loves. Oh my gosh, can you see why I fell in love with her? I want you to follow her. There's all the links after this podcast to her blog, to how to buy her book, to her website. And this journey is not about so you can now have a perfect body. Because trust me, when I stand naked at 71, that was not the goal. Thank heavens. I'm not perfect, but I am my very best. I am my very best self that I can be. I want you to come with us on this journey, get to know Marla, and until next time, remember that it is about crafting a meaningful life, not a perfect life, but your life of excellence. Namaste.
Crafting a meaningful life.